Hi, welcome to Take 5, where we daily consider devotional thoughts from Oswald Chambers' book, My Utmost for His Highest. Today is March 7th, and the title of today's devotional is The Source of Abundant Joy. In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us, Romans 8 and verse 37. An understanding of related scripture is necessary for today's devotional. Beginning with Romans 8 verses 31 through 34, what then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare His own Son, but delivered Him over for us all, how will He not also with Him freely give us all things? Who will bring a charge against God's elect? God is the one who justifies. Who is the one who condemns? Christ is He who died, yes, rather, who was raised, who is at the right hand of God, who also intercedes for us. In verse 36, Paul quotes Psalm 44 and verse 22. As it is written, for your sake we are being killed all the day long. We are regarded as sheep to be slaughtered. Here's the takeaway from all that. Our faith is to be found as a threat to the unbelieving, for it serves as an interruption to their permission to live life according to their own desires and wishes. And thus they see it necessary for God's voices to be removed from their midst. But their work of murder and persecution of all and all kinds of works to quieten us does not cause us to be separated from God. Jesus told His disciples, blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you falsely and say all kinds of evil things against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. Matthew 5, verses 10 through 12. In Acts we read, so they went on their way from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they had been considered worthy to suffer for His name's sake. And every day in the temple and from house to house, they kept right on teaching and preaching Jesus as the Christ. Acts 5, verses 41 through 42. The sharing of all these scriptures is to enable us to see that God makes certain His children know that suffering is to be expected for His name's sake due to the world hating God and anyone connected with Him. As well, we are told that in the suffering for Him is to be rejoicing due to our being counted as people connected so much with God, in that they will want to make us suffer for Him because they can't tangibly reach out and hurt God. We are considered the next best thing. All of this foundation is necessary to understand both Paul's words in Romans 8 and Chambers' devotional today. But be mindful to understand a very necessary truth with all this. The suffering of which the Bible speaks doesn't refer to anything that deserves punishment due to our wrongdoing. The persecution here deals directly with our devotion to God and suffering that comes our way due to our relationship with Him. Most who consider themselves Christians keep a low profile of their supposed faith by behaving exactly as society, so to be accepted and to enjoy what the world enjoys with little or no regard to whether or not it offends God. To fulfill the words of Christ, Christians should not be surprised in their suffering for our Lord. And we don't have to go hunting for hurting because it will find us in order to seek to separate us from God. In closing, Chambers says, we are more than conquerors in all these things, not in spite of them, but in the midst of them. A saint doesn't know the joy of the Lord in spite of tribulation, but because of it. Paul said, I am exceedingly joyful I am exceedingly joyful in our tribulation. 2 Corinthians 7 and verse 4. If you haven't yet read today's devotional from Dr. Chambers, I encourage you to do so, for it will enhance the time that we spend together. It's available free online. Please post below any comments or questions you have over today's devotional, and also please share prayer requests as well. And now, may God's grace and peace be ours as we seek to live our utmost for His highest. God bless you. Thanks for being here today. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.